Hey guys, this video is drastically different than what we typically post on this channel. And I've actually gone back and forth probably over 1,000 times now on if I should film this, and if I do film it, if I should post it. Every time I sit down to actually film this though, I just can't seem to find the words of what I want to say. So if you're seeing this version, here's to attempt 1,562. For those of you who have followed along on our channel for quite a while now, you know that we typically try and keep it real. We show kind of the highs and lows of everything we do. We want to show the reality of things, because at the end of the day, the message that we're trying to share here is that we're everyday people who do, you know, these fun travel, outdoor adventure things, and we want to show everyone else that you guys can do it too. There is some things that we don't share on our YouTube channel though, and a lot of that is in regards to our day jobs. We obviously do this to keep our corporate professions safe. We don't want to, you know, share anything that would put us in any situation of liability. So we tend to not share too much about our day jobs, apart from, you know, that we have day jobs in the tech industry. But there's actually something that happened about almost 5 months ago now, and there's been a lot of things that have been going on in the background that have had a major effect on us, and ultimately have an effect on this channel and, you know, some of the background stuff around that. And I feel like it's important to share some of this. One, just because to show everyone that, you know, although we portray a certain image here on our YouTube channel and we try and keep it real, there's always stuff going on in people's lives that you won't know about. And two, because I feel like this is a very taboo topic and not a lot of people talk about it. And I do want to shed some light on it in case anybody else has experienced this and might feel alone in that experience. So back in December, I actually lost my job. And I know a lot of people are experiencing job loss with COVID right now, but the reality is that my job loss was not COVID related. I was straight up fired. And this was a very earth-shattering, devastating experience for me. I personally put a lot of pride into the work that I do, both in my corporate job and in my, you know, my life. And I really work really hard. And in my corporate profession, you know, I've worked very hard to kind of climb that corporate ladder, get to where I was. So losing my job was definitely a really hard pill to swallow, and being completely honest, even 5 months down the line, it still is a really hard pill for me to swallow. When you think about somebody getting fired, you typically think, you know, they weren't doing their job, they were, you know, not showing up to work, calling in sick too much, you know, the list goes on. But the reality is good employees get fired every day too. And that unfortunately was the case for me. Oh God, I'm like nervous laughing here. So why am I sharing this with you? Well, I'm sharing it because there's actually a background story that led up to me being fired. And that background story is that for the last year or so that I was in my job, I was experiencing workplace bullying. And again, this is another situation where you think of bullying, you think of children at school. I don't think anybody expects to be bullied as an adult. You know, we like to think that we're all adults, we can hash things out, you know, as mature individuals. But in reality, workplace bullying happens very, very frequently. And much like my case, I did not realize that I was being bullied until I was out of it. having the last 5 months to kind of, you know, sit back and reflect on the situation and everything that happened has been both very insightful and very difficult. You know, to sit back and look at situations that were happening in the workplace is really kind of sad to think about. And I think the worst part of it is sitting back and looking at myself personally and what place I was at physically and mentally. Because for the last year, my physical health and my mental health took a really big hit because of the situation that was going on. Now, I'm not gonna get into too much detail of the actual scenarios that were happening at work. What I will say is the bullying was intentional, it was very personal, and it was very systematic. It was happening from somebody who was in a more senior position than me, and it would often happen in private conversations where, you know, I didn't have the ability to kind of defend myself and I didn't have any support from anybody else. And I know that, you know, when we talk about bullying or when you hear about bullying in the news, there's a lot of emphasis on kind of the mental effects that bullying has. And I can see that now because I can't tell you how many times I would leave conversations and I would question myself. I would question myself, I would question my work, I would question my worth and my abilities as an employee in my job. And slowly, it was really starting to tear me down. From a physical and mental perspective, I mean, physically, my body was giving out on me. I would log off of work every day just completely and utterly exhausted. I couldn't figure out why I was so tired all the time. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't eating well. I gained a significant amount of weight because I just didn't have the energy to worry about, you know, my health and what I was eating. I would just, you know, eat whatever was in sight that was easy. I was definitely binge eating to kind of deal with, you know, a lot of the stress that I was under. And my body started to give out on me too. For those of you who've watched, I think it was in our Mexico videos, you might remember I threw out my back. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I actually threw out my back standing up from a seated position, and my physiotherapist told me that it was most likely a stress-related injury. And then back in October of last year, I threw out my neck. I also am incredibly exhausted, and in true Tia fashion, I managed to throw out my neck. Apparently that's a thing. I didn't know you could throw out your neck, but you can. It's kind of like throwing out your back, except it's in your neck, and it hurts. And ultimately that was a stress-related injury as well. And during, you know, from October to December that I was still working, it didn't matter how many physio sessions I was going to, how many exercises I was doing, that injury wouldn't heal because I was too stressed. And I was stressed from what was going on at work. From an emotional perspective or a mental health perspective, I mean, that was all declining as well. Behind the scenes, I wasn't sleeping well. I would go to bed and have anxiety about all the work that still had to be done, had anxiety about going to work the next day. I started having a case of the Mondays the minute the weekend started. I didn't want to have to go back to work on Monday. I was just utterly exhausted. I think probably the worst part was the anxiety. I started to develop really, really bad anxiety. And as the year progressed, each time I would have to get into meetings with, you know, this particular individual, I would leave that meeting and like just spiral into complete panic attacks. which, you know, makes it even more difficult to kind of pull yourself together and go back to work and get the work done that you need to do. I think the other side of this was the fact that we're in an ongoing pandemic, and I want to share this because I think a lot of people can relate, where, you know, being in tech and in the corporate world, once we kind of shifted to working remote, there was almost kind of like this unspoken pressure to prove that you're still performing at the same capacity. I think a lot of employers in the tech industry lack trust in their employees. So the minute that everybody went remote, employers immediately went on standby of, well, my employees are not doing their work, you know, they're slacking off, they're doing house chores, they're partying, they're drinking, they're doing this, I don't know. So I know for myself, and I know for a lot of my coworkers, we felt this unspoken pressure to perform more and more, to continue to prove that we're being just as productive, if not more productive, while we're working remote because of the pandemic. And that, with no surprise, that ultimately led a lot of us to be burned out. And I think that's, you know, part of what led me to where I got to as well, is that I just kept taking on more and more and more work, and I stopped taking a look at myself. I stopped taking a look at how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. It didn't matter that I was exhausted. It didn't matter that I was burnt out and, you know, I wasn't functioning well. All that mattered was that I continued to do my work, and I continued to prove that, you know, I wasn't slacking off. And at the end of the day, what probably bothers me the most is that I let myself get to that, because no job is worth that. No job is worth that. No job is worth sacrificing your own health and the health of the people around you just for a paycheck. I don't really know where I'm going with this video. This is definitely really hard to share. I'm not used to being so vulnerable on camera and talking about such personal issues, but I think it really, really is important, because I actually have never talked to somebody about workplace bullying. I've never heard stories from other people about being bullied in the workplace, yet it does happen. And it just so happens that I heard a similar story from someone a couple weeks ago. Somebody who works in the tech industry here where we live. And it was mentioned in passing that they left their previous job because of workplace bullying. And it was a very nonchalant comment, but it's a topic that has such a big impact, a huge impact. Right now, where I am, I'm still trying to work through, you know, what happened. I've always been fairly confident in finding a job and interviewing and working, and I just have such passion for what I do in my day job. But coming out of this situation, even 5 months down the line, my confidence is completely shattered right now. I worry about interviewing with other companies. I worry about having the label of being fired on my resume. Like, what, you know, again, because people think, you know, that people only get fired because they're not doing their job. What happens in an interview when I'm asked, you know, why I left my last job? You don't want to lie, but you also don't want to say you're fired, because immediately people are going to think that it was a performance issue, that the problem was you. And you also don't want to throw your previous employer under the bus. So this is a really, really difficult situation to be in. And I would be lying if I say that this did not have a big impact on me. It's really easy to say, oh yeah, it's just a little bit of bullying, you know, sticks and stones. But at the end of the day, it has an enormous impact. Whether you're a child, an adolescent, or an adult, bullying has an enormous impact on people's mental health. One thing that has really come out of this in reflecting on the situation is I really started to reevaluate, I guess, my life. I started to reevaluate my career aspirations. I started to reevaluate vacation days. You know, we always said that this was a side hustle. But I think for both Andy and I going through this experience together, it has really changed our perception of our lives, our corporate lives, our side hustle lives, our day-to-day lives, what we value, what we don't value. It's really kind of put a mindset shift in everything. I really stopped and took a look at what do I do in my day-to-day that makes me truly happy? And the answer to that is the YouTube and teaching and sharing. All of this time that we spend traveling and making videos and sharing them with you guys, and sitting down and even editing, I love that time. I absolutely love it. There's literally nothing better than getting comments of, you know, thanks so much for, you know, sharing this, or you guys inspired me to go and try this. Somebody actually said this a couple of weeks ago, that we inspired them to go try bike packing. I remember last year when we talked about doing bike packing, the first time Andy mentioned it, I thought he was crazy. I was like, there's no way I can do that. So the fact that we went from that mindset and we did it and we shared it, and we're now have other people coming and saying, oh my gosh, you've inspired me to do this. It is literally so touching and so heartwarming, because that is the whole purpose of, you know, this channel, is to show you guys that you can do it too. And this is really what truly makes me happy. So I really had to sit back and reevaluate, what am I doing with my life? I mean, I'm not blind to the fact that we can't just all quit our jobs and do whatever makes us happy necessarily, because at the end of the day, you know, you've got bills to pay and you have to eat and you want a roof over your head. But what's really drastically changed in my mindset, and even with Andy, is that we started saying, why can't vacation days be our business? It doesn't mean that I'm not going to go back into a corporate job right now, but it just means that we are now shifting to see if this can truly start to support either one of us, or eventually both of us. If this can become our day-to-day. And I have days where I completely freak out about it, because I think it's completely crazy. I know, like, you look at big influencers and you're like, wow, I wish I could be like them. And the question always comes back to, why not? Why can't you? You can. Everybody can. It takes time though. It doesn't happen overnight. For a lot of influencers that are huge now, what you might hear them say is that what you didn't see is all of the time over the last 10 years that they put into building that business. And that is really what we're doing right now. So I personally am taking a few months to continue to focus on my mental health, as well as focus on aspects of vacation days and some other side projects that we've kind of got on the go. And it's just been wonderful. And I don't know, this is gonna turn into some weird motivational video, but hey, if it connects with you, then I'm happy. I used to think that these motivational quotes that you see in like classrooms or workplaces, like on posters and stuff, were all kind of like frilly, like so typical. But I've really started to connect with those lately. Like even simple ones, something as simple as do something today that scares you. Like honestly, at first I was like, really? Come on now. But I think a lot of the driving factor behind why we do or don't do things is actually fear. When I look at myself personally in this situation that I've been in, where I was running myself dry, the underlying factor of why I didn't step back, why I didn't look at myself personally and say my body's giving out, is fear. You have a fear of, you know, not meeting your own expectations, not meeting your friends and family's expectations, and not meeting society's expectations. But it's that fear that stops you from living your most authentic life, a life that you want. I found myself recently, as I was reading a book, I said to Andy, when is it enough? You know, when do we stop chasing promotions, titles, money, and start living our lives and being happy in what we do instead of being exhausted? Stop working for someone else's dream and start working for our own dream. And that's where it plays in of, why can't we do this? We can do this. You can do it. I can do it. We all can do it. But you have to face that fear first. You have to face the fear of failure. Failure is inevitable. It is. And if you look at the stats on how many small businesses survive, a lot of them fail. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, because who knows, maybe you could be the next big influencer, the next big travel vlogger, the next big whatever you want it to be. All you really have to do is look fear in the eyes and say, you know what, we're doing this today. We're gonna tango, we're gonna dance it out, we're gonna try it. I know I rambled a bit there. I don't know if when I cut this, it's gonna make sense altogether, but I truly just wanted to share with you that if you're struggling, if you're working something that doesn't make you happy, start to shift your mindset. I'm not saying go out and quit your jobs. Please do not go out and quit your jobs. Don't come and yell at me. But start to shift your mindset. Start to ask yourself the questions of what does make me happy? And just think about the things that truly make you happy and bring a smile to your face. And ask yourself, you know, is this what I want to do? Can I make a career out of this? Can I make a side business out of it? Can I make it into something that I want it to be? Even just that minor shift can really open a world of opportunities. Again, with the stupid quotes, inspirational quotes, but I swear, they start to make a lot of sense. When you shift your mindset, they start to make a lot of sense. Anyway, to wrap this up, if you made it to the end of this video, first of all, I just want to say thank you for listening to my ramble. If this video resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, I don't know, just something, so I don't feel like I'm crazy, because this is super scary just sharing any of this. And lastly, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of our followers and supporters. The fact that we have even grown to where we are right now is just truly amazing, and we obviously would not have been able to do that without you guys. And I can't wait to keep exploring and creating content to share with everyone, and I can't wait to keep connecting with you guys on you know, various different things that we share on this channel. So from the bottom of our hearts, we just want to say a huge heartfelt thank you.